Can you go 5 minutes without checking your phone? Do you feel anxious when you don't immediately respond to notifications? Do you find yourself scrolling through social media, seeking validation through likes, comments, and shares? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you're experiencing what I call modern mental slavery. But here's something extraordinary. 2,000 years ago, a man who was literally born into physical slavery discovered the ultimate blueprint for mental freedom. His name was Epictetus, and despite being owned by another human being, despite being beaten, despite having his leg permanently damaged by his master, he became the freest person who ever lived. Today, we think we're free because we can go wherever we want, buy whatever we can afford, and speak our minds. But Epictetus would look at our modern world and see a different kind of slavery, the slavery of constant connectivity, the chains of social media validation, and the prison of always needing external approval. The irony is profound. We have more physical freedom than any generation in history, yet we're more mentally enslaved than ever before. We're addicted to our devices, dependent on other people's opinions, and controlled by algorithms designed to capture our attention. But Epictetus discovered something revolutionary. True freedom isn't about your external circumstances, it's about your internal responses. And today, I'm going to share his 7-step mental freedom blueprint that can liberate you from the invisible chains of the digital age. If you're ready to break free from the mental slavery that's keeping you anxious, distracted, and dependent on external validation, then stay with me. Because what you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you interact with the modern world. Who was Epictetus? Before we dive into his freedom blueprint, you need to understand who Epictetus was, because his story will shock you. Epictetus was born around 50 AD in what is now Turkey. He wasn't born free, he was born a slave. His very name, Epictetus, wasn't even his real name. It literally means acquired in Greek. He was property, an object to be bought and sold. As a young slave in Rome, he was owned by Epictetus, one of Emperor Nero's most brutal administrators. One day, his master was twisting his leg as punishment. Epictetus calmly said, "You're going to break my leg." His master continued. "See? You broke it," Epictetus observed, without anger or complaint. That broken leg left him permanently disabled. But in that moment, Epictetus discovered something that would change philosophy forever. You can control my body, but you cannot control my mind. This slave, this acquired property, began studying Stoic philosophy. He realized that while his master owned his body, his thoughts, his responses, his inner world, these belonged to him alone. And in that realization, he became freer than his master, freer than the emperor, freer than anyone else in Rome. Eventually gaining his freedom, Epictetus became a teacher. His students included senators, wealthy merchants, and even future emperors. Think about that. Former slaves don't usually teach the ruling class. But Epictetus had something they desperately needed, the secret to true freedom. Now, you might be thinking, that's inspiring, but what does this have to do with my Instagram addiction or my need for likes on Facebook? Everything. Because the principles Epictetus discovered in physical chains apply perfectly to the mental chains of modern life. Formula 1. Distinguish between what's up to you and what's not. Some things are within our power, while others are not, Epictetus taught. This is the foundation of all mental freedom. When Epictetus was a slave, he realized he couldn't control whether he was beaten, where he lived, or what work he was forced to do. But he could control his thoughts about these events, his responses to them, and his character development through them. In the digital age, you face the same fundamental choice. You post something on social media of what's up to you. The quality of your content, the authenticity of your message, the intention behind sharing it. What's not up to you? How many people like it, who comments, whether it goes viral, or how others interpret it? But here's what most people do. They put all their emotional energy into the things they can't control. They obsess over like counts, refresh their feeds compulsively, and let their mood be determined by social media metrics they have zero influence over. Epictetus would say this is insanity. It's like being upset that it's raining when you wanted sunshine. Rain doesn't care about your preferences. Social media algorithms don't care about your feelings. Here's your first practical exercise. Before you post anything online, ask yourself, what part of this is up to me, and what part isn't? Focus all your energy on your part, creating quality content, being authentic, adding value. Let go completely of the parts you can't control, other people's reactions. This single shift will liberate you from 90% of social media anxiety. Formula 2. Focus on your responses, not others' actions. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, Epictetus taught his students. When his master broke his leg, Epictetus didn't scream, curse, or plot revenge. He observed it calmly and chose his response. This wasn't passive acceptance, it was active choice. In our hyperconnected world, we're constantly reacting to other people's actions. Someone unfriends you on Facebook, and you spend hours analyzing what you did wrong. A colleague doesn't respond to your text immediately, and you create stories about why they're ignoring you. A stranger leaves a negative comment on your post, and it ruins your entire day. Epictetus would ask you, why are you giving other people control over your emotional state? Here's the truth that will set you free. You cannot control what others do, say, or think about you. But you have complete control over your response. And your response is where your power lies. When someone doesn't text you back immediately, instead of creating anxious stories, choose curiosity. I wonder what they're up to. When someone criticizes you online, instead of defensive rage, choose indifference. That's their opinion, and they're entitled to it. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming responsible, able to choose your responses rather than being controlled by them. Try this. For 1 week, every time someone does something that typically triggers you online or offline, pause and ask, what response would serve me best here? Then choose that response consciously. Formula 3. Release attachment to external outcomes. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. As a slave, Epictetus owned nothing. Yet he discovered he could be infinitely wealthy by wanting nothing external for his happiness. His freedom came not from having more, but from needing less. Today, we're enslaved by our attachment to digital outcomes. We need our posts to get a certain number of likes. We need our stories to be viewed by specific people. We need constant validation, constant engagement, constant digital feedback to feel worthy. This is modern poverty disguised as connection. You're making your happiness dependent on variables you can't control, operated by algorithms you don't understand, managed by companies that profit from your addiction. Epictetus discovered the antidote: engage fully, but hold outcomes lightly. Create your best content, share authentically, engage meaningfully, then release attachment to the results. Think of it like archery. You aim carefully, pull the bow with full strength, and release the arrow with complete commitment. But once the arrow leaves your bow, its flight is no longer up to you. Wind, gravity, and countless other factors will determine where it lands. Social media works the same way. Create with intention, share with purpose, then let go of the outcome. Your worth isn't determined by digital metrics. Your value isn't measured in likes and shares. Here's a practical exercise. Before posting anything, set an intention that has nothing to do with external response. Maybe it's, I want to share something that might help someone today, or I want to express my authentic self. Focus on fulfilling that intention, not on the reactions you receive. Formula 4. Practice mental reservations. When you are going to meet with anyone, say to yourself, what will this person say or do, and you will not be disturbed, Epictetus advised. This technique, called mental reservations, involves mentally preparing for various outcomes before engaging in any activity. It's not pessimism, it's emotional preparation. When Epictetus woke up each morning as a slave, he would mentally prepare, today I might be beaten, insulted, or forced to do degrading work. But I will maintain my dignity, respond with virtue, and remember that these external events cannot touch my inner freedom. In the digital age, you can use this same technique. Before opening social media, mentally prepare. I might see content that triggers me, read comments that upset me, or notice that others seem happier or more successful than me. But I will remember that social media is a highlight reel, not reality, and I will not let others' curated lives affect my inner peace. Before posting something, practice mental reservations. This post might get no likes, might be misunderstood, or might even receive criticism. But I'm sharing it because it's authentic to me, and others' responses don't determine my worth. This isn't about expecting the worst, it's about being emotionally prepared for any outcome. When you're prepared, nothing can shake you. Try this exercise. Before engaging with any digital platform this week, spend 30 seconds mentally preparing for various outcomes. Notice how this preparation affects your emotional state and responses. Formula 5. Embrace your role, don't fight your circumstances. Remember that you are an actor in a play, Epictetus taught. It is your job to play your role well, regardless of whether it is the role of a slave or a king. Epictetus couldn't choose to not be a slave, but he could choose how to be a slave. He could be bitter and resentful, or he could use his circumstances as training for virtue. He chose the latter and became the greatest teacher of freedom in history. You didn't choose to live in the digital age, but you're here. You can fight against technology, complain about social media, and resist change, or you can learn to use these tools consciously and purposefully. Most people are unconscious actors in the digital play. They mindlessly scroll, reflexively react, and accidentally become addicted. But you can choose to be a conscious actor. You can use social media as a tool for connection rather than validation, for learning rather than comparison, for sharing value rather than seeking approval. Epictetus would say, you've been assigned the role of a human living in the digital age. Play that role excellently. Don't wish you lived in a different time, master the time you've been given. This means setting intentional boundaries with technology, using devices purposefully rather than compulsively, and creating rather than just consuming content. Ask yourself, given that I live in this digital world, how can I play my role most excellently? How can I use these tools to become a better person and contribute positively to others' lives? Formula 6. Use obstacles as training for character. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, Epictetus observed. He saw every difficulty as an opportunity to practice virtue. When his master broke his leg, Epictetus didn't see it as a tragedy, he saw it as training. Training for patience, for acceptance, for maintaining dignity under pressure. That broken leg didn't make him a victim, it made him stronger. The digital age presents unique obstacles: constant distraction, information overload, social comparison, addiction to validation. Most people see these as problems to escape. Epictetus would see them as training opportunities. Struggling with phone addiction? Perfect training for self-discipline. Dealing with social media comparison? Excellent practice for self-acceptance. Overwhelmed by information? Great opportunity to develop discernment and focus. Every obstacle in the digital age is training for ancient virtues: patience, wisdom, temperance, and justice. The question isn't how do I avoid these challenges, but how do I use these challenges to become stronger? When you feel the urge to check your phone compulsively, see it as training for self-control. When you notice yourself comparing your life to others online, use it as practice for gratitude and self-acceptance. When you're tempted to seek validation through likes and comments, treat it as an opportunity to develop internal validation. Epictetus would say, the digital age isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Every challenge is customized training for the person you're meant to become. Formula 7. Remember, you always have a choice. No one can hurt you without your permission, Epictetus declared. This was the ultimate realization of his freedom. Even as a slave, even with a broken leg, even under the most oppressive circumstances, Epictetus discovered that he always had one choice no one could take away: how to respond to his circumstances. His master could control his body, but not his thoughts. Society could control his status, but not his character. Physical limitations could control his mobility, but not his mental freedom. In our digital world, it often feels like we have no choice. The algorithms seem to control what we see. The notifications seem to demand our attention. The social pressure seems to require our participation. But Epictetus would remind you, you always have a choice. You can choose to turn off notifications. You can choose to unfollow accounts that make you feel bad about yourself. You can choose to use social media intentionally rather than compulsively. You can choose to create rather than just consume. You can choose to connect authentically rather than perform for approval. Every moment presents a choice between freedom and slavery, between conscious response and unconscious reaction, between using technology or being used by it. The question Epictetus would ask you is this: will you choose to be a free person living in the digital age or a digital slave living in the modern world? Your freedom isn't determined by your circumstances, it's determined by your choices. And you're making those choices right now, in this moment, as you decide how to engage with this content and what you'll do next. Your path to mental freedom. Epictetus went from being literal property to teaching emperors about freedom. Not because his external circumstances changed dramatically, but because he discovered that true freedom was always available to him in his mind, in his responses, and his choices. You have access to the same freedom he discovered. You don't need to escape the digital age, you need to master it. You don't need to eliminate technology from your life, you need to use it consciously. You don't need to live like a monk, you need to live like a free person. These 7 formulas aren't just philosophical concepts, they're practical tools for daily liberation. Distinguish between what's up to you and what's not, and focus only on your part. Choose your responses rather than being controlled by others' actions. Release attachment to external outcomes while engaging fully in the process. Practice mental reservations to prepare emotionally for any outcome. Embrace your role in the digital age and play it excellently. Use every obstacle as training for character development. Remember, you always have a choice, and choose freedom. The slave who became the greatest teacher of freedom has given you the blueprint. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you continue to scroll mindlessly, seeking validation from strangers, and letting algorithms control your attention? Or will you use these ancient tools to become truly free in the modern world? Epictetus would remind you, you were born to work together with others. Find your role and play it excellently. Your role in the digital age is to be a beacon of conscious living, authentic connection, and mental freedom. The world needs people who can model what it looks like to use technology without being enslaved by it. Start with just one formula. Practice it for a week. Notice what changes. Then add another. Freedom isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. If this ancient wisdom helps you break free from modern mental slavery, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more transformative content that bridges ancient wisdom with modern challenges. And remember, every notification you ignore, every urge you resist, every conscious choice you make is a step toward the freedom that Epictetus discovered 2,000 years ago. The chains are invisible, but so is the key. You're holding it right now. What will you choose? Stay free. Stay stoic.